Elonak, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. G, I hear you well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Sorry for everyone. To be honest with you, I was so exhausted. I fall asleep and I'm just try to do whatever I said. So I decided to do the webinar. I think it was better to do it than not to do it. And thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. G, for the webinar.
Chris, hi. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dr. G.
Okay, good. Thank you. Please, if you can help me, people who are not aware that there's the webinar today, if you just contact text or something, I will really appreciate it. So I'm going to do a very comprehensive review tonight. All right, so we'll start in a couple minutes. Just give me a second, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome. We are going to start our webinar for nutrition. So, all right, so just a moment. Let me organize my table here. I have a lot of papers. Yeah, that's good. All right, so we are going to organize the webinar in different, in a similar way, but we are going to approach in different way. What I'm going to do is review all the lectures. I'm going to highlight the topics that basically I want you to remember, and some values that you must know. We are going to review from lecture 1 to lecture 7. And definitely is basically it's nothing new over what we was talking. It's nothing really kind of extra for what we have already been done. And yes, let me see, just a moment. Just reviewing my notes. I will start in a few moments. Okay, got it. All right, so let's start with lecture 1.
Dr. G, I have a question.
Yes, Orsima, come on.
It's Alona. Is the webinar will be recorded?
Yeah, I'm going to record it.
Thank you.
Welcome. Today we will review about our topics about nutrition for the final exam. Okay. So just a moment, I need to get rid of that closed caption. Again, welcome to our webinar. Today is about the review of high yield topics for final exam. Thank you everyone for participating tonight. Okay, so we will talk about review lecture by lecture. And one thing I want you to always keep in mind is about your health promotion. Okay, so basically, if you notice about the whole course, we was talking about health promotion, the healthy and balanced diet, right? So, but for that, you need to consider, in order to have a patient education, you need to consider various factors, like the socioeconomic status, etc., demographic, family patterns, that is very kind of related to genetic. We have demographic, certain areas of the country, they have different habits of that is going to impact in the health of the patient. Okay, so nutrition is the process involved in taking, assimilating and using nutrients. So talking about assimilating means assimilation doesn't mean absorption. Assimilation means that the components of the nutrients are going to be part of your system. Okay, so just remember again, registered dietitian is going to be a registered dietitian, means that they have a board. So compare with a nutritionist, the one that you need to call for expertise is going to be the dietitian instead of the nutritionist. Nutritionist can be anybody who are spontaneously want to know more about nutrients, and that is basically based on experience and self-teaching. Meantime, dietitian, they have they have a program, they have actually to pass a board. Okay, all right. So let's keep going. All right, health and wellness. You need to remember, health is lack of disease. Wellness is your habit, right? Your lifestyle. And having wellness means eating healthy, a balanced diet, and exercises, right? And health is the process that you have, is lack of any disease. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, the science of proper nutrition. We have alertness, a well-developed body, a ideal weight, muscle, hair, glossy hair, bright eyes, and resistance to the disease. All right, so this is a must. You need to remember these values, please. Okay, so in the we will do some exercises in the. You already know how to do some exercises about how to calculate the amount of kilocalories that you require in a day. So carbohydrates go from 45 to 65, fats are going to be 20 to 35, and proteins go from 10 to 35. So what I want you to remember about this is the carbohydrates, you need to remember this number, 50%. 50% of the carbohydrates. Fats are going to be 30%, and proteins are going to be 20%. Okay, so in some diets, they ask you to, for example, increase the carbohydrates, so you can go up to 65. Or in some cases, they ask you to decrease the carbohydrates, it's going to be 45%. So there is a range. So, but for a person, for example, we are going to do calculations that are need to lose weight or to gain weight. You're going to use these 50, 30, and 20%. Okay, all right. All right, so talking about proteins, so proteins is very important. Number one, because that is going to retain water, right? Retain water. It's going to produce the oncotic pressure. So oncotic pressure that is being done by the osmotic pressure. It's going to be related to the osmotic pressure. Okay, so low levels of proteins in the vasculatory system. If you have low levels of proteins, these are proteins, and the water starts to be retained here in the vessel. But if you have low amount of proteins in blood, low proteins, water starts to escape from the vessels, and that is going to lead into edema. So very important to remember, okay, edemas. All right, so number one. Number two is going to contain nitrogen that is going to be used to build up structures, right? Build up, okay? Besides proteins are going to be what we call enzymes. We are going to have hormones. There are hormones. They are going to be different structures in the body, right? So, and proteins are not used primary for energy, okay? Are not used primary for energy. Okay, so that is important about proteins, the minerals and vitamins. Vitamins are going to be the cofactors, coenzymes, the coenzyme. The vitamins are going to be the coenzymes. The minerals are going to be the cofactors. Cofactors. This is a review, so it's very good that we finish the course and we are going to review all the concepts that we actually require for this. So now, erase this first. Okay, this eraser is not erasing. Okay, please. Okay, coenzymes, for example, coenzyme. One example that you need to remember is the vitamin K, right? Vitamin K. Vitamin K is going to participate in the chemical reactions of the coagulation factors, right? The coagulation factors that is going to produce at the end fibrin, okay? Fibrin. And if you don't have vitamin K is not going to be able to cooperate with the enzymes to produce the fibrin. So vitamin K is needed in order to create fibrin that is part of the secondary coagulation. Okay, coenzyme. Another important name that we need to remember is the cofactor. Cofactor is everything that is minerals. And this cofactor is going to cooperate with the enzymatic reactions too. And this is, for example, we have calcium. Calcium, we have different uses, uh, different actions. So what calcium in this case, for example, is a cofactor is going to participate in that coagulation factors too. So for example, okay, let's start. So we have secondary coagulation, the secondary coagulation, and the secondary coagulation is going to be based in the coagulation factors, correct? Coagulation factors. And the coagulation factors, we have coagulation factor 12, for example. They are going to turn into coagulation 11, then into coagulation protein 10, and they are going to end into coagulation factor 2, for example, and they are going to go into coagulation 1 and then produce the fibrin. The fibrin is the fibrin that is going to be part of the clot. Remember what is a clot? A clot is going to be the red blood cell plus what? Plus platelet plus fibrin. So that is the way that is going to be formed the clot. Okay, so we have the red blood cells plus the platelets, and these coagulation factors is part of this fibrin. So the primary coagulation are the platelets, primary. The fibrin is the secondary coagulation. So all these all together are going to form a clot. So we have the secondary coagulation factors, and this case, the calcium is going to participate in some of these reactions that is going to help to accelerate the production of fibrin. Okay, so and the same thing with the vitamin K. Vitamin K is going to participate in the acceleration of some of these enzymes in order to produce the fibrin. So in conclusion, you need to remember the coenzyme are vitamins and cofactors are minerals. Coenzymes, this is one example because we have other vitamins, for example, all the vitamin B, right? The vitamin B, that is, for example, remember the vitamin B9, that is the folic acid, vitamin B12, that is the the cyanocobalamin, the vitamin B12, that is going to actually lead into increase the cell division, right? Improve or promote cell division. Cell division. What does it mean, this promote cell division? So that means that if you these vitamin B12s are going to help for all these enzymatic reactions to produce cell division. The vitamin B12 is fundamental for the for reproduction of red blood cells. Remember, we produce 2 million red blood cells per second, 2 million per second. So, and vitamin B12 is going to help for cell division. So, it's a coenzyme. It's a participating in the reaction. So, if we have lack of that, you have low or poor number of red blood cells leading into anemia. Okay, so that is about that. Let's keep going. All right, so these you need to remember the definitions of some of these important definitions. We have undernutrition, that is less than the patient amounts of nutrients. So still having the nutrients, but is not enough. And we have malnutrition, that is already a severe depletion. No, it's not severe. It's a depletion already, if the of the reserve of the nutrients in your body. So if the nutrients are depleted in your body, that is already a malnourishment, malnutrition. And overnutrition, that is the excess of nutrients. Okay, so for this, the daily recommended reference intakes and recommended dietary allowance, the one of the things I want you to remember is sodium. Sodium. So the RDA is going to be 2,000 milligrams per day. Cholesterol. Cholesterol is going to be 300 milligrams per day. Okay, so that's all. That's one of the important things you need to remember after you finish your nutrition course. Okay, so sodium 2,000 milligrams per day and cholesterol 300 milligrams per day. That is the recommended dietary allowance. Okay, when you have hypertension, you are going to just decrease to about 50 to 60%. 60%. That means that you will have about 1,000, 1,100 milligrams per day. And cholesterol, overall, you need to decrease your levels of cholesterol. And let's see. Okay, so here we have some data that we need to remember. When you do exercise, 30 minutes, most of the day is to prevent chronic diseases. 30 minutes exercise, mild to moderate exercise, will be prevented to chronic. What is a chronic disease? Let's think about one step forward. What is a chronic disease? Any chronic disease that you can think. For example, hypertension, right? Hypertension. What other chronic disease you have very common is diabetes mellitus, right? Diabetes mellitus, right? So those are basically, I'm going to mention many, few of them, because there's other many chronic diseases, renal failure or whatever other pathologies, right? Exercise 60 minutes per day to prevent gain weight. 60 minutes per day to prevent gain weight, so it's 1 hour. And if you want to lose weight, 60 to 90 minutes to to have a sustained weight loss. Okay, so here we have, there is many questions that are going to request. You need to know very well, let me see here, there you are. You need to know this very well. So first of all, we was repeating this for many times, that we have the monomers, right? And these monomers, what is important, why is important to know the monomers? Monomers are going to be the one molecule of a nutrient, one molecule, monomer. And these monomers are important because that's the one who are going to be absorbed by the intestine, right? So intestine. Why is that? Because monomers are small, are the smallest units of the amino acids of proteins, proteins, a small components of the smallest unit of the carbohydrates and fats, right? So proteins are going to be absorbed only in the form of monomers called the amino acids. The carbohydrates are going to be absorbed only in the form of monosaccharides, no disaccharides, no disaccharides, no disaccharides. And the fat basically are going to be used as fatty acids, okay? So we have, and this is going to be many times, we are going to talk about what is a disaccharide and what is a monosaccharide. This is a here, monosaccharide. So we have the maltose is disaccharide because it's composed by one molecule of glucose and glucose. So two molecules of glucose is the maltose. Here we have the beer, is the beer. We have the lactose, that is the milk, is going to be the galactose and the glucose. You must know this, so there is no chance not to know this, please, okay? Sucrose is the table sugar, or sugar table. It's always making a mistake, I don't know what, okay, you understand me? And we have fructose and glucose. Fructose plus glucose is the sucrose, okay? All right, and remember the one who can be absorbed are these guys. All right, so here we have the polysaccharides. I'm going to go back to this because I want you to remember this. It's not erasing. Okay, let me a second. I'm erasing here. Okay. Okay, so talking about polysaccharides. So what I want you to always remember from this course is the glycogen. I want you to remember the cellulose. Of course, the lignin is going to be part, but I actually want to focus in the glycogen. Glycogen is a polysaccharide. It's a carbohydrate. Okay? Glycogen is a carbohydrate. What type of carbohydrate? Is a polysaccharide. So they have thousands, hundreds, and thousands of molecules of glucose together. That is a glycogen. Okay, glycogen is a carbohydrate. The cellulose is what is the not digestible. No, it's not digestible carbohydrate, right? It's a polysaccharide too, but it's not digestible. So this is what we call, in other words, cellulose is going to be called the fiber. Is the fiber. When we are going to use fiber? Fiber we are going to use for example, prevent what? Prevent constipation. Okay? Constipation, very important. And in addition to that, cellulose is going to do what? It's going to decrease the cholesterol. Let me change the tip of my pen here because I don't know what's happened. Okay, I can change it. Okay. Okay, so that is about. Okay, what is the recommended, and this is, you must remember, please, recommended increase of dietary intake of fiber is 38 for male and 25 grams per woman, okay? 38 grams per male and 25 grams per day in a woman. So we already talked about cholesterol, we talk about carbohydrates. Okay, these values are not going to be really necessary. We have the classification of amino acids. Amino acids, we have indispensable amino acids. There are 9 of them. So those are need to be in what? In animal food. In animal food is basically where animal sources are going. The meat, for example, is where we are going to find these essential amino acids. Our body is going to produce amino acids too, right? Our body produces amino acids, but the ones who are very low produce are these essentials. So that's why are indispensable. So we need to eat from another source to supply or to add to our low amount of amino acids produced for our body. We need to take it from other sources in order to complete all what we need. So that's why essential amino acids. So how many of those are? Nine amino acids. You don't need to remember the names, okay? All right, so positive balance and negative balance is very important to know. Positive balance is when you have, for example, enough intake of proteins, enough intake of proteins, enough, so, or sufficient, let's put it that way, of intake of proteins, okay? So that means that you are going to eliminate through the urine some increase of urea, that is nitrogen, right? Too much urea, so positive nitrogen balance. Negative nitrogen balance when all you are using all the nitrogen for regeneration of your tissue. So nitrogen is related to proteins, amino acids, and that is going to have this when it's presence in the urine. That means that you have excess of protein, so you are going to secrete more urea. But if you have negative nitrogen balance, you are using all your nitrogen to create tissue, and that means that the in urine is not going to be presence of urea as should be. So, in conclusion, negative nitrogen balance is when you have, for example, you are sick, when you have some infection, when you are having a burns or injury, right? So what is trying to do? Your body is trying to repair and replace the tissue that have been damaged. So they are going to use all the nitrogen available in your diet in order to repair on that. So the urea and the excretion of nitrogen is going to be negative. Okay, all right. We okay with that? Okay, so let's keep going. So just remember proteins. Proteins, and this is the last opportunity for us to talk about proteins. We have proteins is not used for fuel, as you know, as a primary source of fuel. It's the last resource of fuel in case we have depleted the carbohydrates and fat. Okay, so enzymes are going to be used as a transport. Proteins are going to be part of the immune system. Proteins are going to be as buffers. Buffers, remember, we have the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is used as a buffer. We have the myoglobin that some of you mentioned and remember, that is part of the buffer too. So hemoglobin is a very important buffer of the pH. Attract water, that is called the pressure that is being done by osmotic pressure. Okay, so you can interchange either way. It's different, the concept, but you can exchange the same the definition for the actions of the protein. Proteins are going to repair and form structures, right? Okay. Okay, so this is, please open eyes here. Open eyes. Here we have the actually the amount of proteins that we require in a day. For men and women, it's going to be 0.8 grams per kilogram of desirable weight. Okay, if you have, for example, 70 kilos, that is the average, right? Times 0.8 grams is going to be 56 grams of what? of meat, right? And definitely, if you have lean meat, you're going to have a small piece. But if you have fat meat, like a New York steak or rib eye, you're going to have a big piece of meat. So even because we have fat here is what is going to increase, but the quantity of proteins from here to here, with lean versus meat with some fat, they are going to be the same. So that means that this is high quality proteins diet, this one, okay? All right, remember these values, 0 0.8, 0 0.8, 0 0.8, 0 0.8. All right, so that is about our lecture number 1. I'm going to start here. This is lecture number 1. Let's go to lecture number 2. Okay, talking about lecture number 2, let's see what we have. Oh, I'm going to get rid of the subtitles again. Okay, perfect. Proteins. Okay, so that is what we was talking in the previous. So let's keep going ahead. 0 0.8 overview. Okay, so talking about digestion, right? Digestion is something that we talk very much. So digestion is going to have two components, right? The mechanical digestion, mechanical, and the chemical. So please, okay, don't forget never. Mechanical is going to be the chewing, right? The teeth, the saliva, the mixing, the teeth, the tongue, etc. Right? Chemical start actually with the saliva. Then it's going to be with the gastric acid. Then it's going to go with the bile, and then it's going to come the pancreatic juice. So all these fluids are going to have a purpose, that is the chemical digestion. Chemical digestion. Okay, so that is what we need to remember. We have the motility, GI motility, the GI motility that is represented by the peristalsis. 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 Please, if somebody has a suggestion or some comments, just please raise your hand. I will be happy to hear you and to help. All right, so we have that. Okay, so digestive enzymes, we have the chlorhydric acid, and here we have what happened with the bile. Please, this is the last time that somebody's going to explain you this. Bile. The bile is going to have the bile salts. Bile salts. So please, but bile is not just bile salts. Bile is going to be bilirubin plus cholesterol plus bile salts, please. Bile salts. Never forget about the bile salts, please. You can forget about everything, but don't forget about bile salt. We are going to use that in very soon. Bile salts. And these bile salts are responsible for the emulsification. 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 Okay? So the bile salts, we have bilirubin, cholesterol, bile salts, we have water and electrolytes, right? So this is the electrolyte. But don't forget, please, about bile salts. So what is doing the bile salts is going to come to the drop of fat, and they are going to turn into droplets. So what they are doing is to divide. So what you are doing is to increase the area surface. So why is that? Because the pancreatic juice that coming from the pancreas, pancreatic juice, that is the lipase, especially the lipase, is going to actually have better action with these small pieces, because these small pieces are literally increasing the area surface to make action or contact with the lipase. So that's why the digestion is going to be much more effective if you have previous the emulsification of with the bile salts. All right, so that is very important. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so gastroesophageal sphincter. If you see here, the stomach has a different configuration than the esophagus. So even though that is epithelium, the stomach is going to cover by a very thick mucus. It's a mucus that is going to cover the lining of the stomach, a mucus that is covering the lining of the stomach. But the esophagus do not have that because it's not the stomach. It's not prepared to receive gastric acid. And we have the gastroesophageal sphincter that when you have increase of, we are going to talk about gastritis or GERD, remember the GERD, the gastroesophageal reflux disease, is that these gastric acids can penetrate or they can go through the esophagus, right? And this gastric acid is going to make erosion and produce some damage here on the mucus of the esophagus because the esophagus is not the stomach. It's not covered by this mucus protecting against the gastric acid. So they can produce different problems. Like we have, remember the word pyrosis. Pyrosis, that is the, is what? Is the heartburn. Is the heartburn that is what we call the gastritis coming through the esophagus. So what we need to do, what you need to remember is that you need to have a semi-Fowler position, semi-Fowler position in order to, so the patient is no lay down, no lay down, no lay down, is going to be sit up in about 30 degrees, right? And just to prevent the gastric acid go to the esophagus, okay? So it's half an hour, 2 hours is actually is probably too long, but this is what the textbook want you to know. About 2 hours for me is just half an hour, 45 minutes maximum. But actually, yeah, it's to prevent the gastroesophageal reflux, GERD. Don't forget about GERD, okay? Okay, so chemical, we have, let's keep going, chemical acetic chlorhydric acid. So if you see here, we have the stomach, and the stomach, we have the mucus, I mean the cell, the walls, right? And here on the top, this mucus covering the lining. It's a mucus, like mucus. When you have, you know what mucus, right? It's a secretion that, for example, mucus we have in the bronchial tree, right? Is what you spit out, this is mucus. So it's going to be covered like protection of the wall of the intestine. And here we have the gastric acid. So this mucus is going to be a barrier between the gastric acid and the wall. Okay? All right. So pancreatic enzymes. So please, yes, remember that we have the amylase that is digest carbohydrates. It's going to be polysaccharides or disaccharides into monosaccharides, ready to be absorbed later on. The protein, we have the protease. Protease is a general name because we have the trypsin, the chymotrypsin, and those are protease. So what they are going to digest the proteins. And the fat, we have the lipase. Very important, the lipase. Lipase is going to work together with whom? With the bile salts, right? Bile salts. Bile salts. To do what? To produce drops of fat into droplets. All right? So they are going to make the chemical digestion. So let's keep going. So the absorption here in the intestine, so why we have, our intestine is going to be about 20 feet long, 20 feet long. So it's a lot of intestine, right? And in addition to that, we have this in the small intestine, the villi, this villi. And on the top of this villi, we have the microvilli. What it's going to do is to increase the area of absorption, of the nutrients, okay? All right. Metabolism, you already know there is two ways to describe metabolism. One is how the body is going to produce energy, okay? And the second is the summation of two processes, the catabolism plus the anabolism, okay? So it's the summation of these reactions. Catabolic, when is going to happen catabolic? Catabolic, we have a molecule here. Let's make it a molecule here, a molecule. And catabolism, we have catabolism is going to break down the molecule to release energy. And this energy is going to be used to produce ATPs. Okay, and why we need ATPs? To repair, to maintain, to produce, to grow, to develop. All right, so ATP is used for everything. Anabolism is to build up, and going to build up, especially proteins, right? To build up buildings, build up breaches, to build up. That is anabolism. And so when you have a patient who is sick, mostly are going to be in catabolic state. Why? Because they need to break down bonds of nutrients in order to obtain energy to do what? To do the anabolism. Okay, so that is about that. Okay. All right, talking about lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance, again, we have the intestine here. This is the intestine. This is and the lactose is a molecule, right? Of galactose plus glucose. They are going together. So that's why it's a disaccharide. So this lactose cannot be absorbed. For this, in order to break down the galactose and the glucose, they need to come an enzyme that is called the lactase. So please pay attention, lactase, lactase, ASE. Everything that is ASE is going to be an enzyme. And this lactase is going to break down the lactose into galactose and glucose. So then glucose can be absorbed, then galactose can be absorbed because they are monosaccharide. When you don't have you have low levels of lactase, the lactose cannot be breaking down, so the lactose start to accumulate in huge amounts in when mostly in milk, right? The milk have lactose. So you cannot absorb the high concentration. What happened with the water? The water start to get in order to dilute what is higher concentration, because we want to have in and out, we have equal concentration. That's what we want. And the lactose cannot pass, because the ideal will be the lactose pass in order to make equal concentration in and out, but it's not possible because it's too big. So what is doing the body? The body is going to bring water in order to dilute and increase fluids in the intestine, and lactose accumulation produces irritation on the mucus, increasing the peristalsis, and that is the formula for to have a process called diarrhea. Okay, diarrhea. Okay, perfect. All right, so kilocalories, this is a basic thing. You know, the kilocalorie, 1 kilocalorie is to say 1,000 calories, right? With lowercase calories. It's the same to say 1 calorie with capital letter C. Okay, so we already know that. Another important thing, this is really important. This is going to be, I would say, 20% of the exam or questions I want you to know is using these values, right? So 4 kilocalories per gram. So that means that you have 1 kilocalorie for every, you have 4 kilocalories for every single gram of carbohydrate. You have 9 kilocalories per every gram of fat, right? Kilocalories. So we have proteins, we have 4 kilocalories, and alcohol, we have 7 kilocalories. For example, if I have, for example, I have 400 kilocalories of carbohydrates. How many grams are going to have in these kilocalories? All right, so again, see, if you have in your prescription or your formula, you obtain 400 kilocalories of carbohydrates. And I want to ask you, how many grams of carbohydrates are in 400 kilocalories of carbohydrates? So you're going to do this. There's different ways. I'm going to show you one, that if you have for every gram, for 1 gram of carbohydrates, you have how much? 4 kilocalories of carbohydrates. how many grams and grams. Remember the formula for proportions. If this is the unit here, the same unit should be here. If there is a unit here, the same unit should be here, right? Okay, so grams and grams. How many grams are going to have in 400 kilocalories, right? And you're going to do this, right? This is dividing the x, right? But I want this x alone. So what I'm going to do is pass these 400 kilocalories to the other side. And because it's here is dividing. What is doing 400? It's dividing what? Dividing x, right? So now they jump to the other side, multiplying. It's doing the opposite always. So you have 1 gram of carbohydrates times 400 kilocalories and divided by 4 kilocalories. And that is your x, right? What is x? How many grams of carbohydrates are in 400 kilocalories of carbohydrates? So kilocalories, goodbye, and this is divided 100. We have x is going to be 100 grams of carbohydrates. Okay. And you can do that for the same thing for proteins, for fat and carbohydrates. And if I ask you, for example, you're going to take a margarita or you're going to take a Long Island or Alabama, whatever you want, peach, sour, whatever. So if they tell you how many grams of alcohol we have in that drink, right? How many grams of alcohol we have in that drink, you can tell how many kilocalories is going to give you. For example, if you have 5 grams of alcohol, 5 grams of alcohol, 5 grams of alcohol, how many kilocalories is going to give you? That is going to be 5 times 7, so it's going to be 35 kilocalories per drink. Okay, all right. So if you put sugar in addition to that, it's going to be increasing the number of kilocalories. Okay. All right. So we talked about that already. Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. So here we have. I'm going to make a summary here, and what I want you to do here is about this. Let me go here. We are going to talk about the BMR, and that is very important for your exam. Very important. Okay, so we are in class 2. It's 1:36 in the morning, so hope you're enjoying the tour. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so here we have the BMR. BMI, sorry. BMI is the body mass index. Body mass index. So this is, you need to practice because there are many questions about this, okay? And the body mass index of BMI is going to be your weight, please, in kilograms, divided by the height in square, okay? So for example, if I have, this is an example, okay? Example of numbers. So for example, you have, let's put 16. 16 divided by 2 square. Okay, so what I want you to do is, there is different way. So you can use your calculator, put 16, and then multiply twice this. It's going to be 4, right? And then with your calculator, you're going to divide this by this, and that is the number. Other way to do it is that you're going to do this. So 16 divided by 2 squared, that means 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. And then this, again, you divide it twice. So you divided 8 divided by 2 again, that is going to be 4. Okay, so there is it's not going to be any problem to do this calculation at all. So I'm not going to, you're going to use the calculator from the school. Okay, no calculators from other sources. Okay, all right. So you must know this simple math equation. Okay, all right. So let's. This is lecture number 2. I guess yes. Is then we go to lecture number 3. Remember, at the end we are going to have a review of everything in a few what pages. Okay, so I don't have the lecture number 3. Where is the lecture number 3? Let me open. Okay, there you are. Oh, okay. So we are going to do a little bit of faster because we already know this material. So let's see. Let me cut my. Let me cut the closed caption. Okay. All right. So glossitis and cheilosis. These are basically one of the most common signs and symptoms of vitaminosis. So it means vitaminosis means low levels of vitamins or lack of vitamins, deficiency of vitamins, in other words, vitamins deficiency. Okay, so that is signs. A red tongue and some cheilosis. Those are that. Why is cheilosis? So please, I want you to connect that here. Your cells of the skin are going to be repaired and maintained and replaced every single day, right? Every single day, you're going to have exfoliation of the skin. The exfoliation in the skin is not going to just end there, because after the exfoliation, that cells who are getting away from your skin need to be replaced by new cells. And that new cells, they need to have cell division to repair, to replace the cells who are being damaged, correct? Okay, so for that, we need vitamins. So especially the vitamin Bs, any vitamins, vitamin C, or vitamins in general, that are going to help to accelerate, because they are called enzymes, accelerate the reaction for cell division, for example. So cell division is just not cell division. Cell division occurs because we have chemical reactions, right? And these chemical reactions are going to need vitamins, okay, minerals. So the deficiency of these, they are going to produce these main signs and symptoms, the cheilosis and the glossitis, okay? All right, so here we have the fat-soluble vitamins. What is need to observe here is when you have malabsorption, absorption, sorry, are going to be the no digestion of fat. So that means that this is not going to be absorbed, no absorption of fat. That is what is malabsorption. And that why I'm saying that, because when you have malabsorption, because there is no digestion of fat, what could be no digestion of fat? Why? Because you have low lipase, for example. Or, for example, you have low bile salts that cannot do the emulsification. So you need to just remember that what could be cause of malabsorption? No lipase. No lipase. Who produce lipase? The pancreas. So what you need to give? Lipase. If you have, for example, if the cause of malabsorption is decrease of bile salts, that means that you have low bile in general. So what you need to eat? You need to, for example, cholecystectomy, you need to eat small portions, small portions in order to make the low amount of bile be enough for the amount of food that you're eating. Okay, and when you have malabsorption, one thing that is not going to be absorbed are the vitamins that are fat soluble. A, D, E, and K. A, D, E, FADEC, right? FADEC. And what you need to do is you need to increase the supplements of these vitamins. The other group of vitamins, the vitamins are going to be the water soluble, are going to be the vitamin B and the vitamin C. Okay, the vitamin B and vitamin C. So for your exam, and you need to know what I'm going to mention. Vitamin A is the retinol, okay? And we have deficiency of that is the xerophthalmia, dry eye, xerostomia, dry skin. Xerosis is the same thing. Xerophthalmia, xerosis. So deficiency of vitamin A. So in addition to that, is going to, if you have deficiency of vitamin A, you can have night blindness. Night blindness. Remember when grandpapa or grandmama is saying eat carrot because you're going to see like a rabbit, right? So that is because they know that the vitamin A is going to uh, increase the regeneration, the optimal replacement and regeneration of some enzymes and some receptors, like for example the rhodopsin, that is the rods, rods, remember, rods and cones in the eye, rods are going to be for night vision, and that is where it's using the vitamin A. Okay, we have the carotene. We have carrot here, no, it's carotene, and the carotene is a precursor of vitamin A. Okay, all right. All right, so remember the name of vitamin A is retinol or retinoic acid. Okay, retinol or retinoic acid is retinol. So I'm telling you, so please, if you don't know these names and the vitamins is under your consideration. I'm telling you what is important. Okay. Vitamin D, vitamin D is going to be for absorption of calcium, right? In childs, it's going to be called Ricketts disease. In child, Ricketts disease. In childs, it's going to be called Ricketts disease. And in adults, it's going to be called the osteomalacia. 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 Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's what we were remarking, rickets and osteomalacia, okay? They can lead, obviously, in osteoporosis, right? All right, so we have, if we have deficiency of vitamin D, you're going to have low levels of calcium, right? Low levels of calcium. When you have low levels of calcium, that is called the hypocalcemia. Hypocalcemia. Extra, when you have EKG, the QT segment is going to be long. It's going to be long, the QT segment. Okay, so hypocalcemia, what is going to lead into tetanic contraction? Tetanic contraction is going to contract the muscle, okay? All right, so deficiency and excess of vitamin D can lead in excess of calcium, and that is leading into hypercalcemia. So please, calcium is very important to remember the value. What is the value of calcium? It's 8.5 to 10 milligrams per deciliter. So that is your normal values of calcium. When you have hypercalcemia, you're going to have flaccid contraction, flaccid. So your muscles are going to be very relaxed. Not relaxed like a resting. You cannot contract your muscles at all. So what can happen is the diaphragm basically can be affected, right? If you're tetanic, you cannot relax your muscle. You cannot breathe in. And when you are flaccid, you cannot contract the muscle neither, and you cannot contract the muscle. You cannot breathe in. Okay, you cannot breathe in. Okay, so that is problem with the diaphragm. We have vitamin E. So please remember, I didn't mention this tocopherol. I want you to remember vitamin E is a potent antioxidant. Free radicals, the free radicals, right? Free radicals, please. Free radicals are no antioxidant, right? The antioxidants are going to get rid of the free radicals. So that's why it's needed vitamin E. You have vitamin E oral, PO, you have vitamin E by creams, ointments, skin, right? And that is going to protect is going to get rid of the free radicals of your skin, protecting your skin, right? Keeping it more moisture. We have here the red blood cells. The red blood cells are going to be having a lot of these free radicals, and what's happened? The vitamin E is going to get rid of these free radicals. They are going to sweep it out. They are going to sweep it out. Okay, sweep out the red blood cell. Okay, so it's going to be without free radicals. Who is doing that? The antioxidant. All right, if you don't have enough vitamin E, you're going to lead into damage of the red blood cell producing hemolysis. Please remember hemolysis. Hemolysis, E, right? E. We have vitamin E hemolysis, so you can just try to remember that, right? Hemolysis. Okay, perfect. Vitamin K, remember, vitamin K is going to participate is as a part of the coagulation factors, right? Blood clotting, right? So it's going to be the vitamin K that is going to lead the prothrombin that is going to lead into the fibrin at the end. Fibrin. So just remember fibrin, that's okay. So vitamin K, we have ecchymosis, we have bruises, okay? Ecchymosis means bruises, right? And why is that? Because the body is repairing, maintaining, etc., and vessels are being replaced. Vessels are not going to last forever, especially the small ones. They are going to, the capillaries, they are going to break and then they need to repair. And you don't have bleeding. Why? Because vitamin K and the coagulation factors are working instantaneously. So at in the spot. So they're not going to let the extravasation. So that means flooding of blood in your tissue. So that's why you don't have bruises. All right, so saying that, we have another very important vitamin C, ascorbic acid, please, ascorbic acid. What is the deficiency? Is scurvy. Scurvy are lesions, ulcers that appears in the skin, in the joints, in the any part in the brain. So in the brain, they can produce ulcers and bleeding on the skin, but bleeding on the brain too, and you can die from scurvy. The other name is ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is going to be, again, a very important antioxidant. Antioxidant. In addition to that, vitamin C it promotes the formation of collagen. Very important, collagen. Collagen, where people are concerned about collagen in the skin, right? So that's why you have ointments or creams with vitamin C, right? In addition, they add vitamin E, right? In addition, they add vitamin A, right? So all these vitamins are going to promote that properties, right? Uh, by sure, we don't need these vitamins if we have a balanced diet. And 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, we didn't have these creams. So just normal diet, regular balanced diet is enough. So we have poor wound healing with vitamin C, right? Poor wound healing. Why? Because the healing is going to need what? Collagen, collagen, collagen. Collagen is an elastic protein, right? Produce elasticity of the skin. Collagen is part of the bones. Collagen is part of the cartilage. Collagen is part of the tendons. Collagen part of the ligaments in the healing process. So collagen is everywhere. And what is collagen? I guess you know that is the protein. Okay. So thiamine, vitamin B1. Remember, very. So there's what we call the appetite stimulant. Appetite stimulant or stimulant of the appetite. A stimulant. So some kids and some elderly people are not losing the appetite. Vitamin B1 is making the trick. Vitamin B1 can stimulate the appetite of the patients, right? So thiamine deficiency is going to lead into very, okay, loss of appetite, fatigue, and heart failure. We have vitamin B1 that is basically having alcoholic, very important, alcoholic, Wernicke-Korsakoff, Wernicke-Korsakoff, Wernicke-Korsakoff. So you say something and you repeat the same thing. You don't listen any reasons or any discussion. Whatever is you believe is going to be until the end. It's not going to change at all, right? So, and this is one. And second is that you talk about different topics, A, B, C, D, E, whatever, in different moments without any connection, without any sense. That is already alcoholic dementia. Niacin, niacin or vitamin B3, vitamin B3, niacin. Niacin is going to use for decrease cholesterol, decrease LDL, increase HDL. Okay, niacin, vitamin B3, niacin, vitamin B3. That is going to be in pharmacology, for sure, because it's part of the regular treatment for hyperlipidemias or high cholesterol, cholesterolemias. Okay, so you must know this. Okay, so niacin, one of the inconvenience of the niacin that produce flashes, facial flashes. Okay, so you feel that your face is burning completely. Okay, you feel like you went to a sauna 100 140 160 Fahrenheit suddenly. So that is actually very, very annoying for many people, and that's how they describe it. Pellagra is the deficiency of niacin. We have the 4D, sorry, dementia, DDD, diarrhea, dermatitis. What is dermatitis? Inflammation of the skin and death. Vitamin B5, pantothenic acid is going to increase actually can increase the cell division and especially of the hair, right? So most of these are going to be part of the coenzyme. Zika is a coenzyme that are going to participate in the synthesis. Synthesis means production of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay. Vitamin B6, another important thing. Vitamin B6 is the pyridoxine. Pyridoxine. Vitamin B6 is the pyridoxine. That is going to be decreased. Pyridoxine, vitamin C, B6 is going to decrease the production decrease the B6 by using INH, isoniazide, that is for tuberculosis, TB, tuberculosis. Okay. Another thing that we have vitamin C is the neuropathy. So please don't forget about the neuropathy here in vitamin B6, neuropathy. Neuropathy is going to produce what neuritis or peripheral neuritis, or we call this neuropathy, are going to be characterized by numbness, numbness, numbness of the skin and loss of sensitivity, right? Loss of sensitivity. So that is characterized of that. Vitamin B9. So please, this time everybody should know what is NTD. Okay. If you don't know NTD at this level of the class, you can spend 10 more hours studying for today until you review that, because this is very important for your future courses. So NTD, okay, NTD. NTD. Oh, sorry, I'm running out of material. Okay. My battery is here, okay, yes, okay. NTD, so what is NTD? Is neural tube defect. Neural tube defect is the spina bifida, right? Spina bifida. We talk about the spina bifida as NT tube. So that is the what they call the The what? The prenatal what? Vitamins, supplements, right? Prenatal. So you need to take it about 40 to 45 days before you get pregnant. Okay? Okay, perfect. Vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is going to be used the intrinsic factor. Okay, so please, intrinsic factor, vitamin B12. You need to have vitamin B12 that is promotes cell division, please, cell division, cell division. Vitamin B12 cell division of what? Especially red blood cells. If you have low levels of vitamin B12, you have anemia because you cannot produce red blood cells. So the vitamin B12, in order to be absorbed, they need to be attached to the intrinsic factor. When the intrinsic factor plus the vitamin B12 are attached here, they are able to be absorbed by the small intestine. Otherwise, they are not going to be absorbed. Okay, so that is the vitamin B12. And here we have some minerals. The major minerals that we need to requirements a day are 100 milligrams and less than 100 trace elements. And to know that the trace elements, okay, calcium 8.5 to 10, don't forget that. Sodium 135 to 145, don't forget that. Potassium 3.5 to 5, don't forget that. Trace trace elements is going to be iron. I want you to remember iodine, and let's add zinc. Iron, iodine, and zinc. Just remember, just mnemonics, right? Remember pH 735 to 745. Sodium, which is sodium? Sodium is 135 to 145. Remember that? Then we have the potassium. Potassium, let's make it like 3.5 to 5. We have, before that, carbon dioxide, 35 to 45. Remember how similar numbers are? Then we have like bicarbonate. Bicarbonate is 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 plus 2 plus 2, 6, 26. That is the normal values of bicarbonate. Okay? Calcium, the other values are going to be 8.5 to 10, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 that you must know by sure. Okay, iodine deficiency produce cretinism. I pass here, the iron, sorry. The iron is going to be used for producing hemoglobin, right? Iron produce microcytic deficiency of iron produce microcytic hypochromic anemia. Hypochromic anemia. Okay. Iron need to be taken with acid. Iron need to be absorbed with acid. How you promote acid is going to be low in elderly. So what you need to increase is you can use it with orange juice. Orange juice. Okay, so because iron need acid to be absorbed, period. Okay, so other nursing consideration we will do in pharmacology. Iodine deficiency is remember we have the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is going to send the TSH, is the order to produce T3 and T4. And the thyroid gland start to produce T3 and T4. But in order to produce T3 and T4, they need to get some material to produce T3 and T4, and this is the iodine. Proof of that is the T3. What is T3? 3 molecules of iodine. What is T4? T4 are 4 molecules of iodine. Right? So in order to produce T3 and T4, the thyroid gland needs iodine. Okay? You have the orders to produce from the pituitary gland is ordering the thyroid gland to produce through a message called TSH to produce more T3 and T4. The thyroid gland itself is receiving the order, but for that they need to use iodine to produce that T3 and T4. And T3 and T4 are used to increase the, for example, the number of ATPs in the cell. Iodine is needed for is going to go into the cell, the iodine, the T3 and T4 and they are going to promote the formation of more ATPs. And why we need ATPs, especially during neonatal stage, fetal stage, you need to, one of the systems who need a lot of ATP because a lot of cell division is the central nervous system. Central nervous system. If you don't have iodine, you cannot develop and grow the central nervous system, and you're going to lead into cretinism that is what is mental. It's going to lead to mental retardation. If you don't have enough iodine, you are going to lead into hypothyroidism. I don't know why it's hyper here. Forget that. It's hypothyroidism when you have deficiencies of iodine. All right, remember, think about your wound. So zinc is needed in order to produce or to promote the regeneration, replacement, and repair of the tissue. Okay. All right. So I want you to remember a few things here. It's about the water balance. Okay. So let me go here. Talking about the water balance, it's important to refresh something here. All right, so talking about water balance. So what I want you to remember, oh my God. Of course. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to put it here. So we have intracellular and extracellular. Intracellular is inside the cell. We have what? Phosphate, and we have potassium. In the extracellular, we have sodium, and we have chloride. Because cation and ion. Most important extracellular cation, most important extracellular anion. Same for what is the most important intracellular cation, intracellular anion. So this we have water in the extracellular and the intracellular, right? So our body composition is going to be about 60% water in adults. In infant children, pediatric patients are going to be about 80%. When you have elderly people, it's about 55, 50%. Okay? So what are the elements who control water? Control water is going to be what? The kidneys especially, right? Kidneys. Other products, you can eliminate water from the breathing. Put a mirror in front of your mouth, you have some moisture, right? So you're losing water there. So, but kidney is the major component. Another the hormones are going to be the ADH, the antidiuretic hormone. Okay, that's secreted by the posterior pituitary gland to produce retention of urine. Okay, the ADH, and the other one is the aldosterone. AA, can you see? ADH, aldosterone. Aldosterone that is going to reabsorb sodium, and sodium is going to attract or bring with him water. Okay. All right. So that is our lecture number 3. Let's go our lecture number 4. Okay. So I want to check how many students are still with me. I'm going to make a pause. Number 4. Let me cut the closed caption. Closed caption. Okay, so let's see. During nutrition, this is important. We are going to make some remarks here. Is that number 1? So I'm going to go straight. Okay. So here we have an increase of the energy from 340 to 450 in the first, second, and third trimester. Number one. This is what you need to remember. Then we have, okay, this is spina bifida, right? All right, so here how much weight you person need to gain during pregnancy. Normal weight women is going to be 25 to 35 pounds. In overweight, 15 to 25. Obese women, 50 pounds maximum. So you must remember that, please, okay? Average weight gain in the first trimester, another thing that is very important is this, right? Average weight gain in the first trimester, 2 to 4 pounds. 1 pound gain during the second and third trimester. So 1 pound per per week. That is going to be gained during the second and the third trimester. Okay, so prevent caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, recreational drugs. Remember the word hyperemesis gravidarum. Okay, hyperemesis gravidarum is when you have excessive, prolonged and persistent vomiting during pregnancy. Okay, so that is the talking about milk. We have the breastfeeding is recommended for at least for a 12 week of postpartum, between 6 to 12 months. So I will recommend up to 6 months, but it can be given up to 12. Okay. Solid foods added in the baby diet at 6 months. So that's why 6 months, because they need to do the transition, because the milk is not enough. Eating milk 6 months. Can you take milk every for 6 months straight? Right. So besides you get tired, the baby, I don't know, they will like it or we like it or we want to keep taking the same food every day. So 6 months is okay just to start changing the food. All right, so oxytocin and prolactin. Prolactin, production of milk. Oxytocin is the let down reflex. So let down means the ejection of the milk. That's what it means, the let down, okay? Cow milk is not given for infants less than 1 year old. No milk, no cow milk, no cow milk, okay? Because they have casein. Casein is a protein that is not able to be digested. So what is going to lead? Accumulation of casein in the intestine produces diarrhea. You don't want the baby to have diarrhea. 80% of the body is fluid. So any changes on that can produce a profound and dangerous metabolic or electrolyte imbalance. The first way to measure or to monitor the growth of the baby is just this growth charts. Okay, growth charts. This is, for example, the weight in this area. This is the weight, and this is the age. Age here, this axis, and here in this axis we have the weight. So the normal line is going to be this. Going to be this, right? This thick line. Okay. Okay, low weight is about 2,500 grams. It's about less than 5 pounds. Okay, so estrogens, what they are going to do, estrogens is going to promote the calcium deposit in bones, right? Calcium deposits, calcium deposits in bone. They're going to get here. The estrogens are going to retain water, etc. They're going to increase the activity of the platelets. That estrogens is going to increase the anabolism of proteins. So it's going to increase the number of proteins in your bloodstream. All right, so let's keep going. So let's see. All right, so let's go to lecture number 5. Lecture number 5, I want you to remember the overview is 3 to 2. We from 3 people, 2 are overweight. From 1 from every 3 is going to be obese. Christian, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so I lost the audio for a second, I guess, but anyhow, okay, thank you. All right, so let's keep going. So this is a must. We have underweight is 18.5. Normal weight is 18.5 to 24. 24.9 if you want. So our weight is 25 to 29. Okay, 29.9, because obese is going to be equal or 30 more than 30. Okay, so these values are very important. Are going to be several questions about that. So please, I'm just giving you the hints of what probably the most likely is happening. Oops, where's the closed caption? Okay. Okay, so we have obesity and health. To lose 2 pounds in 2 weeks, 2 pounds in 2 weeks, you can decrease 500 kilocalories per day. Okay, so you're going to calculate your BMR. Don't worry about the BMR. The formula is very long. Yes, I know. You can calculate in Google or whatever other devices, applications. But in the exam, if I give you BMR, I'm going to give you the value. So you start doing the BMR. And the BMR, in order to calculate your total daily calories, you need to multiply. I didn't say summation. Multiply the activity factor. Activity factor. Activity factor. Okay. So you know all these diets, the worms, the tapeworm, whatever, those are not good diets, right? Okay. So the normal is, the best is to have a balanced diet. Realistic goals is half to 1 pound per week per loss. Can be up to 2 pounds. That's okay. But the average is half pound to 1 pound a week. A negative energy balance, so you need to decrease between 500 kilocalories to 1,000 kilocalories. Okay, so this is important too. We have disorder of eating, anorexia nervosa. Anorexia nervosa, please don't get confused on this. Anorexia nervosa, there is no eating. The patient is not eating at all, no food at all. Bulimia is going to be the same problem, but here the patient is eating a lot, but everything is going to be vomit or throw up. So it's the same effect at the end, right? Bulimia, when you eat and you feel guiltiness, is a very profound, deep guiltiness. And the patient get depressed. And the patient is going to vomit because of this feeling of guiltiness. And bulimia, basically, you see vomiting, you're having the chlorhydric acid is in contact with your teeth, and that can produce the deterioration of your teeth. So that is one of the characteristics of bulimia. At the end, both are going to be malnourished, right? Binge eating disorder. Binge eating disorder is like you are like a yo-yo gain. So you lose weight and then you gain weight again. You gain weight, and you gain weight. So I'm going to the diet 3 days. You don't eat anything, and then you eat a lot, and then you lose and gain, lose and gain. That is not going to be benefit for the daily requirements in your system. Okay, talking about diabetes, we already talked about diabetes. I want you to remember about uh, the PPP, right? PPP, polyphagia. I'm not going to go into explanation why polyphagia already, because we already talked about that. Polyphagia, polydipsy, and what else? And polyuria, the three P's. Okay, so we finish with this lecture. Six. Okay, so you need to remember the Heimlich maneuver. Practice at home. All right, so try to practice at home. You can save a life. Okay. Dysphagia is difficult of swallowing, right? So we talk about that. Achalasia or cardiospasm is a temporary contraction or muscle contraction of the lower portion of the esophagus. So if you eat here, that is going to be a spasm. You cannot pass the food, right? You feel very uncomfortable. You feel pressure here and behind the sternum. The patient start not to able to talk, start a lot of salivation. Achalasia is a cardiospasm. Why cardiospasm? Because here's the heart, and this area is close to the heart. That's why it's called cardio. Cardio is the area of the esophagus. Cardio stomach is the area that is closer to the stomach. It's not because the heart, achalasia. We have the GERD, the GERD, that means that prevent common irritants. Remember, if you have gastritis for more than 2 weeks, you need to go to the doctor, okay? So don't wait more than 2 weeks because it could be serious stuff. So you need to decrease coffee, increase smoking, decrease alcohol, decrease spices. What else? Chocolate, right? So all these look like a clash. No, okay. All right, so hernia hiatal peptic ulcer, you need to remember the gastric ulcer and that duodenal ulcer, both are called peptic ulcer disease. The duodenal ulcer is a peptic ulcer disease, and the gastric ulcer is a peptic ulcer disease. So you can have one, two, or both, right? One, the second, or both of them. So the same thing, the considerations is to decrease what the chocolate, coffee, cigarette, stress, etc., right? And one of the associations that is very important to remember is the H. pylori. H. pylori. H. pylori is going to be associated with the presence of ulcers and gastric carcinoma. So you need to treat that. Malabsorption, we already talked about malabsorption. We have the steatorrhea, that is the same. Steatorrhea means fat, rhea means diarrhea, right? Frequency, increased frequency. Okay. So here we have, if you see here, all the pathology, I just made this slide yesterday. And here we have GERD, diverticulosis. This is a review, so I'm not need to explain everything again. This is the inflammatory irritable bowel syndrome. We have celiac disease, hepatitis, fatty liver, cirrhosis, cholelithiasis, pancreatitis, CUC, and Crohn's disease. So if you see here, basically that is the summary of the nutrients that we need to prevent, right? For example, we have CUC, we have low fiber. So if you see high fiber, high fiber, high fiber, low fat, low fat, low fat, high proteins, low proteins. So what you need to remember is this. Basically, what is better? Always to increase fibers, right? Increase fibers, carbohydrates. It's going to be better always to have low fat. Do you notice in all the components? So low fat. So if you have some of these problems, you need to basically increase the fiber, low the fat, and generally the protein should be the same amount. The only thing that we need to just be careful in proteins is cirrhosis. And CUC is going to be the low fiber. So the rest is going to be logical, right? What is better? Low fat. What is better? High carbohydrates. What is better to have equal proteins? Probably higher proteins, high quality proteins. Okay, so that is about this. We have the encephalopathy. So encephalopathy is going to be a problem when you have increase of ammonia, and the ammonia is increasing because the liver is not working anymore, hepatic encephalopathy. So please, cirrhosis can lead into hepatic encephalopathy. It's not totally independent. It's not independent. So and hepatic encephalopathy is occurring because you have cirrhosis, right? That's what is cirrhosis. The liver is not working, cannot take the ammonia, and cannot be transformed into urea. Okay, so the difference between cholecystitis and cholelithiasis, right? We have the biliary colic. In addition, biliary colic is when the pain is less than 4 hours. Cholecystitis when the pain is equal or more than 4 hours. You got it? And that is infection. Infection. So you need to go to the doctor, to the office, hospital. Cholelithiasis means presence of a stone. There is no signs and symptoms. No signs and symptoms. Okay. Cardiovascular disease. This is just recently we talk about that. And you need to know the difference between arteriosclerosis and atherosclerosis. You need to know what are the LDL, especially LDL and HDL, which one is the good and bad cholesterol. So remember, we was talking about LDL, so you must know that. Myocardial infarction, you need to remember what is the difference between infarction and what, and necrosis, right? Infarction, necrosis is basically the same. This is histopathological and this is clinical, more clinical. So limited sodium, Mediterranean type diet, that is actually basically we have unsaturated fat. That is the Mediterranean food, unsaturated fat. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I want you to remember your, this is a must, the levels of blood pressure. Okay, so this is normal, pre-hypertension, stage 1 and stage 2. This is very important because for pharmacology too, we are going to use what is the therapy for pre-hypertension or stage 1 or stage 2, right? And pre-hypertension basically is lifestyle only. Stage 1 is one drug, stage 2, two drugs, and we will see that later. Talking about kidney, we already know what is hypoalbuminemia, right? So why hypoalbuminemia can produce edema? What is ascites? Okay. Nephrotic syndrome mostly happen in diabetes mellitus. And what you're doing here is to lose proteins. Basically, that is the nephrotic syndrome. Okay. Oh, this is surgery. So this is already the other lecture. Yes, remember about we will not talk about HIV and that. So, but I'm going to use this space to remark something. We have PO, enteral PO. We are talking about nutrition, right? Nutrition. Nutrition. We talk about the PO. That this part is actually enteral, but we can sometimes they differentiate enteral because enteral is PO, right? We go the GI tract. PO is we divide because here the patient can eat. And enteral is not chewing, so it cannot eat. So what they are going to use is the nasogastric tube, NG tube. Then we have the parenteral. Parenteral. The parenteral is going to be the peripheral parenteral nutrition, PPN. You're going to use this parenteral nutrition for less than 2 weeks, and that is going to be the basilic vein or cephalic vein. We have, if you have more than 2 weeks, you have the TPN, more than 2 weeks. That is going to be the subclavian vein, TPN, total parenteral nutrition. Okay, total parenteral nutrition. That is the TPN. Okay, it's total peripheral nutrition or central peripheral nutrition, most commonly called the total parenteral nutrition. Okay, so now we finish our review. I think the last lecture is being included in this lecture too, so I'm not going to go on that. And let me go here. I'm going to close our one. The only thing I want just to remark about this chemotherapy, chemotherapy is this, that, okay, right. All right, chemotherapy, in chemotherapy, are substances who are going to stop or delay cell reproduction, especially for those cells who are fast division. They divide very fast. Chemotherapy for cancer, right? And cancer cells divide very fast. So that's why chemotherapy is directed to stop the fast division of the cells. We got that? Now, what happened with chemotherapy, that they are not going to affect only the cancer cells, but they are going to affect, for example, the red bone marrow. Why the red bone marrow? Because these are having fast cell division too. Fast cell division. And is going to be affected. So chemotherapy do not differentiate the bad cancer cells from, the cancer cells, the bad cells, from the good cells who can produce cell division too. So chemotherapy, eventually what they are doing is to destroy the red bone marrow. And you know the red bone marrow is the hematopoiesis. And the hematopoiesis means it's going to be affected. You decrease the production of erythropoiesis, decrease the production of platelets, and decrease the production of white cells. Okay, so in conclusion, chemotherapy can lead into BMS. BMS is the bone marrow suppression. Okay, perfect. So saying that, let's do our final review of all the lectures. Okay, yes, give me a second. I'm going to put this. I like this better. Just to make it like background. Okay. All right. So let's start. Okay, so let's start. Here we are going to talk about, let's see. Okay, so we need to talk about the carbohydrates. I want you to know about monosaccharides and disaccharides, the classification. We were talking about the chemotherapy that is going to depress the red bone marrow. We was talking about the fiber. Fiber is used for what? Especially to promote formation of stools, right? To prevent constipation, right? Fiber, in addition, fiber. What is doing fiber? Fiber is going to decrease the risk for colon cancer. Remember, it's going to decrease the risk for colon cancer. The fiber is going to decrease the triglycerides and cholesterol. Remember, I was telling you, if you put a cord or a rope on oil and try to clean the oil, the rope from the oil, take out the oil, you cannot take the whole oil, right? So if you take fiber, the cholesterol is going to get stuck on the fiber and eliminate it through the stool. So that is going to decrease your total cholesterol in your body. So don't forget that. Okay, so just remember the carbohydrates is going to be 4 kilocalories, fats are going to be 9, and proteins are going to be 4. Alcohol is going to be 7 kilocalories per gram. Remember, the allowance protein for male and female is going to be about 0.8 grams per kilogram per day, right? So that is, if you have 100 pounds, 120 pounds, that is going to be 96 grams of proteins every day. Okay, so please remember the range of the fats, the range of the proteins, the range of the percentage in your balanced diet of carbohydrates. Okay, so remember one thing, we was talking about the ppn. Mostly we use the basilic vein, or you can use the cephalic vein. Those are superficial veins. So there is no excuse. So you should know this very, very well. TPN is the total parenteral nutrition. You're going to use the subclavian vein, and that is when you're going to use more than 2 weeks. This is less than 2 weeks. Okay, the enteral or NG tube you can use for 7 to 10 days. If you require more than that, you're going to pass into PPN. If you require more time, you're going to pass to TPN. All right, so we have the proteins. The proteins are basically formed by, is the only nutrient who has this super nitrogen, right? So the nitrogen is the one who is going to be important for the regeneration, maintenance, repair, etc. What you need to know? What is glycogen, right? Please, what is the glycogenolysis? Glycogenolysis. What is that? Glycogen lysis is going to break down the glycogen in pieces. So that means that is production of glycogen is going to produce the glucose, the monosaccharides, right? So glycogenolysis. Lysis means breaking down of what? Of the glycogen. Glycogen is a group of molecules of glucose. And when you break it down, they're going to be all the components, right? So glycogen are thousands and thousands of molecules of glucose. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay. All right, so you need to remember the iron is being used for, we need to increase it with gastric acid, right? So you're going to check you can increase your ingestion of vitamin C or take it with what? With orange juice. All right, so the advantage of breastfeeding, is going to be several, right? One is going to prevent the allergies that cow milk can lead into the neonates, right? So they have fewer allergies and intolerance. Okay, so that's it. Pellagra, remember the niacin, right? The folic acid. What substance that can be prevented during the pregnancy, like alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, of course, caffeine, right? So you need to know what is the deficiency of scurvy, what the vitamin A, right? The encephalopathy, hepatic encephalopathy, what should be decreased in decrease, which nutrients should be decreased during your daily diet. Okay, so when you have hypertension, what are the uh, um, nursing considerations to prevent the increase of blood pressure, decreasing the salt, for example? We have zinc is for uh, wound healing, and we have fluoride is for dental caries. Remember, iodine for T3 and T4. Okay, we have the calcium that we use as a cofactor for what? For coagulation factors. So what is a gluten? Remember the celiac disease. What are the importance of the B9 of folic acid? All right, so you need to calculate the BMI. I want you to know how to calculate the BMI. We're talking about preeclampsia in pregnancy when we was talking about the hypertension, right? Hypertension, proteinuria. One of the examples I was giving you in class was about the preeclampsia. They can lead into nephrotic syndrome. So preeclampsia, nephrotic syndrome, hypertension, and proteinuria. All right, so we have essential amino acids and essential fatty acids, right? Essential amino acids are required during the diet. Essential fatty acids are need to require from the diet because we don't produce or we don't have enough of these elements. Uh, so fatty acids, essential fatty acids, basically are not being produced by the human body. Okay. Okay, so here we have one thing I want you to remember about the cholelithiasis, and probably we need to reinforce that, is that cholelithiasis formation of stones in the gallbladder are going to be F, 40 years old women, F, female, another F, fat women, and the other one is fertile age. Fertile age. Fertile age. So these 4F are actually going to include people who has high risk for formation of gallstones. Okay, so the bile is composed by bile salts, by water, by electrolytes, by cholesterol, okay, and bilirubin, right? All right, so one important thing is I want you to remember about potassium. Potassium is what is very important for, remember we was talking about potassium is this chart. Okay, I'm going to this chart. We have this and this, right? We have sodium, we have calcium, we have potassium, we have chloride, and we have magnesium. And that is going to, if you have excess of the effect of calcium or potassium especially, you can lead into arrhythmias, heart failure. All right, so please remember all the names of the vitamins: ascorbic acid, cobalamin, folic acid, the thiamine. Nephrotic syndrome. What is nephrotic syndrome? Nephrotic syndrome is the loss of proteins. Is proteinuria is the loss of proteins in the urine, right? So you have negative nitrogen balance when you have infections, when you have cancers, right? So when we're talking about diabetes mellitus, so the levels of carbohydrates should be following the about 50% of the carbohydrates, and we increase the carbohydrates, we decrease the fat. So the main thing in diabetes is that decrease the amount of fat in your diet. So the difference between diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2, please, okay, diabetes type 1, infantile, insulin dependent, treatment insulin. In diabetes type 2, adult diabetes, insulin resistance, and the treatment is in diabetes type 2 is the oral hypoglycemic medication. What are the complications of diabetes? Complications of diabetes will be the retinopathy, the what else? The nephropathy, and the neuropathy. Signs and symptoms of diabetic mellitus, PPP, but it's the same to say hyperglycemia. Signs and symptoms of hyperglycemia. The most common group for problems of what? Of hypertension are going to be the African American population. African American population. Okay? Just be ready. You need to calculate your BMI. Okay? So we have stages of hypertension. We already mentioned about that. So when you have heart failure, remember when we were talking about heart failure, remember it's not the same to lift 50 pounds than 10 pounds. So you make more effort doing 50 pounds. So 50 pounds is volume of the blood. So if you have heart failure, you need to you want to decrease the effort of the heart, decreasing the volume, right? And that is going to be decreasing sodium intake, right? Sometimes they're going to, most of the time they take diuretics. What is the definition of Crohn's disease, celiac disease, diverticulosis? All right, so we already talked about that. We have the liver when you have fatty liver. Fatty liver is the same to say fatty infiltration. Fatty infiltration. Okay. Okay, so extra proteins for women is going to be 25 grams per day, right? In addition. Any food that is processed food is going to contain high levels of sodium, right? We know that. Okay, I think that is for today. Let me go and take out my pen here. Okay, let's go to the mouse. All right, so I'm going to just finalize this. I'm going to cut my recording.